When a brand collapses publicly, there are two kinds of companies, those that survive and those that disappear. The difference isn't resources, it isn't market share, it isn't even the severity of the crisis. The difference is strategy, and specifically how fast a company moves from damage control to reputation recovery. Today, we're going behind the crisis war room. We are looking at what actually works when everything is on fire. I am Zeeshan, this is Behind Marketing Lines, and let's get into it. Let's start with the fundamentals. What actually is a PR crisis at global scale? It's not just bad press, it's a trust debt. A brand has made a promise to the public and publicly broken it. And here is where most companies go wrong immediately. They confuse damage control with reputation recovery. These are two fundamentally different operations. Damage control is reactive. It's deny, delay, deflect. Get the story off the front page. Buy time. Reputation recovery is proactive. It's own the problem, explain what happened, and rebuild on new terms. The brands that survive long term, the ones we study and respect, they always pivot from the first to the second. And the speed of the pivot? That is everything. There is a predictable anatomy to how global crises unfold. And if you understand the anatomy, you can intervene at the right moment. Stage 1, the incident. The leak, the scandal, the product failure, the lawsuit, the thing that becomes public. Stage 2, the amplification loop. Media and social media platforms accelerate the narrative far beyond the brand's ability to control it. This stage used to take weeks. In 2026, it takes hours. And the stage 3 is the silence trap. Leadership goes quiet, waiting for legal sign-off, waiting for full information, waiting for the storm to pass. Here is the problem. The public reads silence as guilt. Every hour a brand doesn't speak, the public writes their own version of the story, and they are not generous authors. Stage 4, the fork in the road. Do you stay in reactive defense mode or do you pivot to radical transparency? Most brands stay in stage 3 too long. They never leave it. The ones that do make it though, they pivot hard and fast to stage 4. They say the thing everyone is waiting to hear. They take accountability before a regulator forces them to. And that, counterintuitively, is when trust starts to come back. Let's look at 3 companies who faced the fork. One handled it brilliantly, one recovered slowly, and one is still paying or getting it wrong. Johnson's & Johnson's, 1982. The Tylenol poisoning crisis. 7 people died after bottles were laced with cyanide. J&J pulled 31 million bottles off shelves nationwide without being asked to, without a government mandate, on their own initiative. The signal it sent was enormous. They were saying our customers' safety matters more than our bottom line. It was radical transparency in action. And today, the Tylenol crisis is taught in business schools not as a disaster, but as a masterclass in trust building. Now contrast that with Samsung. The Note 7 battery fires in 2016. Their initial response was slow, defensive. They issued a limited recall, then walked it back, then expanded it. That back and forth cost them more than the original problem. The mixed messaging was its own crisis. And this is important. Samsung did eventually get it right. Full recall, complete redesign, transparent trusting process made public. Within 2 years, they would regain significant consumer trust. And then there is Volkswagen, Dieselgate. Emissions rigging on a massive scale. Their initial response was denial, then partial admission, and then legal challenge. Years of fighting the narrative rather than owning it cost them over $30 billion in fines and settlements, and arguably permanent damage to the premium engineering reputation they had spent decades building. 3 crises, 3 very different outcomes. The variable wasn't the severity of the problem, it was the strategy. So if you're a marketing or a brand leader and you're sitting on something that could blow up or already has, here is your framework. Step 1. Acknowledge first, investigate second. You do not need all the facts to say, we take this seriously and we are acting immediately. In fact, waiting until you have all the facts usually means waiting too long. Step 2. Appoint one crisis voice, one spokesperson, one consistent message. Mixed signals from multiple leaders fracture trust faster than the original incident. Step 3. Separate the brand from the incident narrative. Name the problem clearly. Do not let the problem name you. Saying, we have identified a quality issue in our supply chain is very different from, we are the brand that poisoned people. Step 4. Introduce a visible, concrete change. Product, policy, leadership. It doesn't matter what it is as long as the public can see it. Proof, not promises. Step 5. Rebuild in public. Document the recovery. Show the work, not in press releases, in content, in conversations, in actions that are visible over time. Trust that is rebuilt after a crisis, when rebuilt properly, is often stronger than the trust that was never tested. Because now your customers know exactly how you behave under pressure. The brands that survive crises don't emerge unscathed. They emerge transformed. And transformation, when handled with integrity and strategy, is actually a more powerful trust signal than a spotless record. Because anyone can look good when nothing goes wrong. The brands that earn real loyalty are the ones that show you who they are when everything goes wrong. If you are a CMO or a founder sitting on a simmering issue right now, the best time to prepare your response framework was yesterday. The second best time is now. That's your episode. I'm Zeeshan. This is Behind Marketing Lines. See you in the next one.